Boy, have I been preparing for this last one here. It's been quite a few years here. We've had an absolute blast. Recognize these people from this week? Dude, how about this ops team? Jill and Jessica and the rest of the team just put on a 1,000-person party here. They put us board of directors up here. They like us to be in front of everybody, but I think you guys understand who actually gets this stuff done. I'm not booking these rooms. I'm not ordering those lunches. We're not making sure the mics work, right? So Jill and Jessica and team are some of the most effective humans I've ever encountered, and I think you guys know how fortunate we are to have them. So shout out, Club 4500, and you guys are there. I still got a few suit jackets. I still got a few name tags up there if you like. This is the presidential suite. It's a tradition. I typically open my room, we bring some people up there. Why do I do this, right? People did this for me at my first expo, people in this room. I was a fresh-faced guy with oil primer under my fingernails. Somebody grabbed me and they brought me up somewhere and we had very thoughtful conversations. I wanted to continue that tradition because that first expo, those are those things that made that sticky to me. There are so many meaningful conversations that take place in settings like this. I do it for those moments. So, how about, we know where we're going next year, right? Orlando. But who wants to know where we're going for 2027? Since I'm a lame duck chairman, I can do some things that otherwise would not be allowed. Jill is going to kill me. I made the unilateral decision to pick the location of the 2027 PCA Expo as my closing gift for everybody. We're headed to New Prague, Minnesota. Hey, all right. Never heard of it? Maybe you've heard of it from a certain influencer with a question and answer show live on the internet, right? Here's what you can look forward to in 2027. New Prague is nestled in the quaint and flat southern farmland of Minnesota. The people there, all 8,000 of them, are honestly passive-aggressive and introverted, right? Coincidentally, also the home of a certain painting company, right? February in Minnesota is a special time for us, right? That's all I have to say about that. The event venue, you may ask, someplace that will rival the Broadmoor. This is the Knights of Columbus Hall in New Prague, Minnesota. Conveniently located next to the Dairy Queen. Who doesn't love a good M&M's blizzard, am I right? That person looks happy. All right, get serious for a second. You guys know I love history, right? I was gifted a typewritten history of the PCA a few years ago by the person that I assumed their board seat, right? In this book, it's this big. I've read the entire thing. It is one of the more interesting things I've ever read. We call ourselves a 141-year-old association, right? The origins, when you read this tome, actually go back to 1825. There was the House Painter Society. The House Painter Society lasted till 1885. The Painting Contractors Association, the PDCA, the PCA grew from that. So, based on this book, we are over, the association, the origins, are over 200 years ago that this started, right? Apprentices, right? Apprenticeship and training and standards and quality have been the through line through this entire thing. Apprentices served under what's called indentures, right? Making them indentured servants. They remain at one shop 4 to 7 years until the master in there deems that they are okay and they can go anywhere they want. They can journey out. This is where journeyman comes from, the origins of journeyman. The complaints of the industry. There's actually a painter's magazine from way back there. I believe the only archive is in some dusty library in New York. It'd be fun to track that thing down. The complaints from everybody were poor and unreliable paints, right? The painters were saying every time we open up a can of paint, we don't know if it's going to be linseed oil, it's going to be castor oil, white lead, anything else. And right about that time, our big champions came out with pre-mixed paint in a response to that. Not uncoincidental. This dude, Titus Berger, 1880, he's a painting contractor from Pittsburgh. He was writing articles in the Painter's magazine about just this. He was disappointed in the standards and the quality. All the conversations we have, we need young, fresh minds in here. We got to bring the standards up. We got to run professional businesses. The same thing was said then, but in their own time. He said, we must help ourselves by cooperating as brothers and by banding together as a family. It took him 4 years of writing articles in that magazine before he rallied enough support to do something with it. That was the catalyst for our organization. It was formed to enjoy the mutual advantages of improvement, to eliminate incompetent hands, which I thought was a pretty aggressive phrase, and to assist each other in business and distress. He has no idea how well we followed up with that mission. First meeting was in New York, 1885. First expo was 1885 as well in Chicago. You're actually looking at the transcript that I read of that first expo. They listed what they ate, turtle soup. They listed what the events were. They showed what they were interested in, things that were being solved. We have 1,400 people here today, 1,400 members and 1,000 people here. 7 people showed up to the first expo. It actually said in this history, this is how important this was. It literally stated, Titus had a crisis of faith. But he kept going. Didn't stop him in his mission, right? Anybody recognize this place? 2016 Expo in New Orleans. Who was there? It was my first. Also, going back through my archive, this was my first master's class ever. I presented Jason's favorite subject, the art and science of cabinet painting, the molecular science of oil primer, enamels, spraying, things like that, right? At this expo, my mind was blown. You guys have heard my story about walking in and just being completely gapped at this first expo. It's interesting, and going back through my social media archive and going through a lot of my notes, I actually found a post that I wrote right after that expo. And for those of you who listen and watch to my one-page weekly, I transcribed that entire thing and gave some thoughts on it. Snippets of that. I'm not going to read the entire thing. I asked myself, I was having this moral quandary. Am I lowering myself to the status of a common laborer by devoting myself to the craft and not working on my business? I was very bifurcated. It was either 100 here or 100 here. One of the last things I asked myself in that post, one of the eternal questions that I was just wrestling with at the time was, can you call your life happy, right? When I read through that, I realized that I was searching for a purpose. I was searching for a meaning. I think like all of us are. And our businesses are these kind of useful tools and vehicles and distractions to occupy that time, and we kind of push that other stuff down the road. So I was searching for my purpose back then, and I don't think I knew it. And this expo was my 10th. I was a single owner operator at my first expo, and I'm more than that now. And from the second I walked into that expo, I knew that my life was probably not going to be devoid of the PCA. 5 years ago, I was elected to the board of directors. Dave Scaturo, you still here? How bad did I embarrass myself that first meeting? Dude, that was bad. I came in guns a-blazing, entrepreneur Nick, I got to leave my mark, let's do this. And I embarrassed myself in a big way. Thank you for not beating me up after that meeting. That was very kind of you. But after that, I received a world-class education in leadership. A world-class education. What it is to lead from a board of directors. A nice, consistent process over a long time horizon instead of unilateral decisions that we make in our own businesses. And now, I don't forget that, and I fight every day to pay those people back who gave me that trust before I deserved it. One of my most embarrassing faults is that I'm not always grateful as I could be, and I don't always celebrate wins when I should. Getting better. I have immense gratitude for my team and what we accomplished together this year. This is our scorecard. Highlights, we created an entire committee structure with 50 to 75 people. We created 4 events. We basically replicated one exact expo over 4 locations. We recruited and hired and onboarded an executive director and another assistant. And we shored up more board of directors for the board of directors, amongst other things. This is a banner year. It was a big, big growth year. Events, Women in Paint, PCA in Espanol, residential, commercial. There were over 641 humans who went to those events altogether, right? The 2023 Expo had 641 humans go to it. And in 1 year, we found Jill and Jessica, who had not been in this industry, said, hey, painters are fun. They like to get together. You should do 4 more of these events. And they're just like, oh my God. I said, trust me, when we get these humans to these events, they're not going to want to go anywhere else. They trusted us. And I saw it in Jill's eyes today after a year of doing this. She gets it. She understands, like, she believed us, she believed me, she believed the board of directors. I could see it now. After all these events, they believe it. So, also, for next year for the expo, can you guys register more than 2 days beforehand? You guys are going to give Jill a heart attack, right? 6 months before this thing, we got to tell them how many of those box lunches are going to be out there. Can you please? Those things are expensive. We need to know how many people are coming. A noticeable amount, a measurable amount of humans walk up to this door without pre-registering. So please, as a parting gift to me, register more than 2 weeks in advance for next year's expo, okay? The financials, you saw my friend Dave Graham right here. This is one of the quietest, most serious operators I've ever had the pleasure of doing business with. Because of him, because of Jill, because of the board of directors, because of our awesome members, we have had steadily increasing revenue and steadily decreasing expenses. And I am so proud to tell you what Dave told me at the board of directors meetings. We are in the strongest financial position in modern PCA history right now at this date. I also want to stand in front of you and give you big wins. Real wins are real fun, right? I want to give our champions wins. I want to give everybody included real wins. One of those big wins is membership. We have 1,400 member companies. They have employees. They have trade partners. They have associates that help them. In the board of directors alone, 7 director companies, give or take, they employ and operate with more than 500 humans. One PCA membership is not one human. One PCA membership is the tip of the iceberg to a mountain of humanity. You extrapolate that number, 7 companies to 500 people, 1,400 people to whatever that is. I'm a house painter. I don't do math very well. That's called influence. That's called influence, right? And I'm proud to report you that last year, one of the hardest numbers to move in any organization, Lions, Economic Development Authority, Veterans Clubs, is membership. Our membership increased 25.5% last year. Amazing feat. Anybody recognize this flag? Carl, with the hand up. I made a friend from Iceland. Dude, somebody from Iceland flew here. You kidding me? Carl, right there, buddy. Raise your hand. There you are. He gave me this pin right here. At #Club4500. That's why I do some of those things. I don't get these pins if we don't do those parties. Either now, because of this pin, I'm a member of a freaky Icelandic cult, or I'm the only American who's ever worn the Master Painters of Iceland pin. Cool pin either way. Aussies? Dude, when you guys roll in, you roll in pretty damn heavy. There's over 19 of you registered here. A lot of people came from a lot of places, but you guys really wanted to be here, right? Shout out to your prime minister. Great man, great man. Also, small world, little known fact, Chris Moll's father as well too. Love you, buddy. Some history and perspective. A year ago, I stood in front of you guys and proposed a new strategy for the PCA. I want events. I want this. I want it replicated all over the place. Gathering groups, women in paint, PCA in Espanol. We want to create deeply meaningful relationships in events across the country. And it's succeeded wildly. It has helped our organization immensely. It creates revenue we can use for education and memberships, scholarships, and we want to make the PCA the most meaningful association in our lives. So, 2025 events, as they were announced, Annapolis, Maryland for the Craftsmanship Forum, San Antonio, Texas, PCA in Espanol and Residential, Nashville for Women in Paint, and this amazing place, Hotel del Coronado for commercial. Basically, this is the Broadmoor on the ocean, and you can see the Navy SEALs train right on the beach. I've taken my family here.
And it's haunted.
And it's haunted? Ron Rice, stop it. That's, for some, that's a value add. All right. But Our PCA EXPO in 2026, not Minnesota, Orlando, is backed by insanely popular demand. So, as a promise, I promise you unique experiences, right? And we're gonna keep going there. I'm gonna try to replicate the Broadmoor experience as many times as we can. This has been absolutely phenomenal. So a peek behind the curtain of your board of directors. Like I talked about in Ask a Chairman, Monday was our annual meeting and we started a multi-year educational alignment initiative. We'll survey people, we'll curate an amazing amount of education and content, and deliver to you, our members, an effective curriculum that's world-class and best in the industry. So watch for that in the coming months and years. Data and feelings. Let's talk about the state of the industry. One of the duties of the board of directors is to go out and gather up data and then start looking towards the future, making a plan for the PCA. PCA is now 141 years old, roots back to the 200 years, and we want to make sure we chart this course and stay. So I have a unique perspective about what we do, right? I travel around a lot, I communicate, you guys communicate with me, we collaborate, people all across North America. And I can say that there's been some trends this year. Things felt different to me this spring. Yes? No? Yes? A little different? What got me curious and excited was leads were a little lower than I expected. We had a whole bunch of projections of leads this spring, and they were slightly lower. And of course, when this happens, immediately I go to, well, this is the recession that's been hanging over our head like a guillotine for 10 years, right? Not hyperbolic or anything, but we've been threatened with this recession, this boogeyman recession the whole time. So I went back to the data that I trust, my data. Year after year, until I found what I was looking for. I had to go back all the way to 2019. What you're seeing here is a graph of all the leads in my company by week for the last 4 years. 2022, red, 2023, blue, and last year, green. Over the last years and through the COVID era, I have adjusted my business using a market rate system to increase our prices and labor and staffing based on the data that was coming in. But it was different this year, right? I was growing to expect 75 to 80 leads a week for the first 2 quarters of the year. And that's what we built a business around. This is the gross domestic product of the United States since 2007. I started my business in 2007. It matches the graph of my weekly leads back to the start of my business. When housing crisis, Great Recession hit, my leads followed that path. We had a good run here. COVID hit, precipitous down, precipitous up, and the trend line. This data shows that we're not entering a bad economy, to me. It shows me that we're leaving an irrational economy. The trend line. Where it ends on the right is basically exactly where we left off in 2019 with a little improvement. So, if you started a business a year and a half ago, you may be riding this. You may only see this data. But if you go back far enough in our business and our economy, you can see that back up from it, it shows you a different story. This is important because econometrics like this guide our board of directors and association. We want to stay ahead of this stuff. We don't want to get caught flat-footed, right? And education is going to be so important to weather things like this. You guys have always heard me, the average paint business lasts 18 months, right? This graph shows you a painting business that has lasted 10 times longer than the average business, just like you guys have, because of the PCA and the education. It allows us to weather these storms. So, PCA Board of Directors and Executive Director Jill, you guys want to join me up here? Come on up, come on up. So we always joke about what happens when the dog catches the car, right? And if we're being honest, not many of us are prepared for it. That's why that is a joke and a cliche, right? Jason, as the board chair previous to me, chased the car so I could learn how to lead. This car that we're chasing could be any number of metaphors. A professionalized PCA, Jason and I overcoming our Minnesota introversion, or I don't know, just throwing this out here. Jason and I's father not telling us they're proud of us enough. It could be one of those things as well too. Any metaphor you want to place it to, right? But really this is the analogy now. In recent years, Jason did one of the most beautiful things that a leader can do is make way for the next leader. So for the last 2 years, I've taken up the chase. But this is really the most honest analogy. My board of directors and ops team have come alongside me with the chase in a way that I had not expected, but I should have. And so goes the culture of our board of directors and our PCA. The events, the education, the togetherness we experience are a direct result of these humans right here. It's likely you're never gonna know the thousands of hours that these servant leaders give to this organization, the time away from their businesses, the time away from their families, and that's fine. We don't need that recognition, we love to serve. So what happens when the dog, the industry, catches the car? Not just the PCA. The industry is maturing, and at the same time it's younger, more diverse, and more entrepreneurial. When all the technical problems are solved in our businesses, a new problem can come up, one that we didn't expect. So, as an industry, we've got a little bit of that fresh bumper taste in our mouth, right? Things are getting better, we're improving. What happens when the business owner gets a taste of that time and money freedom? I've seen this at my own retreats when people come back year after year. Things progress, they start running out of these technical problems. If we succeed, we're all going to face the next problem, finding our purpose and living a full and happy life alongside our industry and our painting businesses. And for me and many of you, there's one great resource, one that many people don't use, the people in the PCA. So, this is my last year of service in this way. It's going to be a big year. My promises to you guys and to my people. I will leave this board of directors better than I found it, just as Jason did, just as Gina before him. Servant leadership, I'm going to give you everything I have. I'm going to water those little acorns that I talked about last year, the ones that'll turn into big oak trees, and the oak trees that'll grow and mature and have the shade that we may never see fully grown. Just like Titus Berger did 141 years ago. And then, just like everybody before me, I'm going to get out of the way. So this chapter of my PCA life will be complete after this year. And I look forward to contributing in a new way. This group of humans will be leading the PCA into its next life stage. I shared a pretty emotional moment with you guys last year because I unlocked a benefit of the PCA that's nowhere on the website. You can't click a button and get what I got last year. I found a competitive advantage so strong, so simple, and so beautiful. When the basic business problems are basically solved, eventually you're only left with yourself. People without purpose can flounder. And the only thing you can help are your people. You are my people. I can't look at Maggie, dang, making me emotional. And I'm grateful for you all. Attendees of the 2025 PCA Expo, these are your people as well. Get out there, chase that car. We'll be here for you when you catch it. Thank you, everyone.
This content is brought to you by the PCA and the PCA Education Foundation, with help from our national champions, Benjamin Moore and Sherwin Williams, and the PCA's 2025 industry partners.